Officer Forehand with the Roanoke County Police Department, and today we're talking about the Citizens Public Safety Academy. I'm here with Ellie and Evan, and they went through it, and they're also in one of our neighborhood watch groups, which is pretty cool. So we're just talking about it. Hopefully you can learn more about what the Citizens Public Safety Academy is. So what would you like, what's relevant for people to know about yourselves, that you're normal people and that actually enjoy hanging out with the police?
Well, we're both, as you said, active in the neighborhood watch. Honestly, the Citizens Academy was a good way for us to figure out what ways we could better help our community by better understanding how y'all function. We've liked to think that we make a good impact on our own community as far as crime and things that are going on. But also it helps to be able to support, your first responders and understanding what they go through and how things work with them. It's also kind of helped us get the ability to help out in our community a little more too, like with the backpack program and things like that, just understanding how things work and where we can actually make a difference.
And also know, yes, we are just your average, everyday, normal people, but also, I grew up in a first responder home, so they're just normal people to me anyway, and getting to put a more, normal look with you guys and not, look past the badge, and you guys are just human beings like we are, and to try and help take that little bit of a stigma away too. And it's like, hey, we're just getting to hang out. You guys are just educating us on what you can do, what resources you have, and just furthering, hey, we're here to help. So that's been really, really great to see, and just the vast resources that the county has, that even growing up in a first responder home, I'm like, oh yeah, we have that, but just taking it such a step further and knowing some things that I didn't realize the county had. So that's been really, really interesting to see too.
Yeah, because both of y'all are pretty, obviously, first responder home, both of y'all in the neighborhood watch group. Mm-hmm. So what would you say surprised you?
A lot of it was surprising. I think, one of the most shocking units we did was the undercover and the drug unit. Knowing
vice.
how absolutely prolific it is and how much we know about it, and are, even despite our knowledge, are unable to do a lot about it because of legislation and laws and what your restrictions are as law enforcement, but also a lack of help from the community. The amount of opposition that's faced by first responders that are people that are, like she said, just like you and me, that are here to help, the amount of opposition that they get from the community that prevent them from being able to make a difference. That was shocking to me as well. In our area in Mount Pleasant, we're all pretty aware of what's going on, and except for a very small group of people that
that inadvertently may not realizing interfere with some of that work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you say, oh, hey, there's police presence. Well, yes, but there's a reason for that. Don't kind of blow their cover, if you will. So it's been nice to kind of help educate, not to give any specifics, but to say, hey, yes, they are doing their job. No, it's not like the TV shows where it's going to be done in 24 hours, case is wrapped up and everything's done. It does take time and, education and stacks and just evidence to build up for that. And that, I think that's been a really eye-opening fact for a lot in our neighborhood watch too. And we did have a couple of those individuals who we got to experience in the academy. They actually came out and spoke to our neighborhood watch group and kind of helped solidify the things that we had told them, but to hear it strictly and straight from that person who's actively involved in a lot of that. So that was, I think, a huge help to understand, hey, though you may see this, understand they do have limitations, but they are very much so passionate about what they do and trying to make a difference and help the issues that we're seeing. So that's been a huge, I think that was mine too with the Vice Night. That was the most interesting and fascinating one to me, just this, how much is known, how little, if you will, a lot is done, but in the vast majority of things, what can be done, and just how much is known, and just how they can trace things and know where things are coming from. That was just fascinating. A little Roanoke, Virginia, to know that how many ties are from out of the country. That was just wild.
Seeing a map with Mexican cartel names on it over top of where you live is nothing less than shocking.
Yeah.
You know, I think another thing for me was the dispatch night. When we got to go into the dispatch center, for whatever reason, it never clicked to me that dispatch works with all of the departments at once. I just kind of assumed that you get like transferred, you know, and EMTs handling this and the fire, and then you get your police people. But it makes so much more sense, and it gave me so much more respect for the people in dispatch for the amount of overwatch they have to do in all departments, and keeping everything organized and making sure that they're checking on people and making sure that people are going where they need to be and the information is getting sent where it needs to be as it's being relayed. I'm not a good multitasker. And to those people are like superheroes. I'm watching what they're doing, and like one was typing with two different hands. You know what I mean? Two different keyboards. All right, what is going on? You know, so it to me, like, that was really shocking too, because I mean, not only am I like not capable of focusing my brain in that many different directions, but the idea of them keeping it all straight and being, you know, kind of the eyes from afar and organization, and making sure that people get to the right places and all the information is relayed properly, so that you get to the scene and you know what to expect, and you're not walking into, you know, certain things, and making sure that the right resources show up on scene. That's truly impressive. And people don't really think about the dispatch side of things when they think of first responders. You know, those people are absolutely every bit as important as
they're the first ones taking the call.
Up. Yeah, and keeping their head cool. You know, when the person that they're talking to is, you know, either fighting for their life or you know, under a stressful situation, and being able to keep everything cool and make sure that those resources get where they need to be. Like I said, to me, I just assumed that it was a lot more at play than just one person keeping all of that together. You know, so and the technology that you guys have got at your fingertips to make sure that happens. You know, like the floor was even raised because all of the wiring and all of the stuff that's being fed into that room. Like I just, like I said, that was probably the second like mind-blowing thing to me.
And taking that a step further, when I did my ride along with one of the officers, I did a midnight shift and rode along with her, and it was fascinating to see, with talking about dispatch. I grew up in the first round. Dispatch would call, hey, you know, we need so-and-so. Can you get them on the phone? Absolutely. But then riding around with Officer Campbell and getting to see just how much interaction, watching, you know, the keyboard and watching the computer screen coming through, and knowing that if an officer sits at a location for a certain amount of time, dispatch checks in and they have to check in, or else they have somebody coming to check on him. And to have that level of security for you guys as the officers as well is just... I never really thought about that till after the fact. And also part of Neighborhood Watch, you come in and give the reports, hey, we have the calls for service. So, you know, for the citizens who call in, and hey, so-and-so is knocking down my door, you know, things like that. And then to hear the officer initiated reports, and that baffled me at first of what does that mean?
Especially in an area as quiet as we live.
Right. And then riding around with Officer Campbell, and, you know, as we're going, you know, checking license plates, sitting running radar, and then learning and having a true appreciation of what those officer-initiated incidents are, of whether that's speeding, whether that's going down the road without taillights or expired tags, things like that. That was really interesting to see, and especially in the officers talking about multitasking of being in so many places. We got to kind of float throughout the night, so we weren't so stuck in just one district. So that was really neat too. And she was able to take us around to several different districts and kind of talk about, I guess, the processes and kind of the normal flow of those. And that was really fascinating to see, and how the different officers work together and can even communicate, not even through the radio, but through the if you'll have to forgive me, for the laptop for that, and to kind of check on each other in different calls. So that was really cool to see that camaraderie between the officers too. So that was just that, and then seeing dispatch play in and checking on them, that was fascinating to me, and really, really cool to see that there's, you know, of course you have a brotherhood and a sisterhood, but just see how much concern and care for each other you guys have too is awesome.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we have, I was talking to someone recently, and they're like a little bit intimidated because it's once a week from February to October with like a short break over the summer, and obviously like not required to make every single one. Like y'all missed a few, and because like very few people, unless they're maybe retired, can make every single one. But what was that commitment like for y'all? Like experientially, like before you got into it, like was that all daunting? And in it, like how was it like having this pretty regular commitment?
It was pretty daunting at first to think because with work being unpredictable and different health issues and different circumstances in my life, Evan was very excited to do it. He said, "Hey, I'm going to do it. Honey, do you want to do it?" And I said, "I'm not sure." He said, "Today's the last day to sign up. I'm signing you up." And I said, "Sounds great." At least, so I had somebody to do it with. And, started out, I'm like, oh gosh, this is a weekly commitment. And then probably after the first or second week, I really looked forward to it. I'm like, oh, we have the academy tonight. Clear the plans. Hey, can you do this Tuesday? Absolutely not. I have the academy to go to.
It's not nearly as daunting once you go to it a couple of times and you realize it's enjoyable.
Yeah. The topics are great.
She's off, earlier than a typical 9 to 5. She goes in work a little earlier than that, and so she's off in time. I run a motorcycle shop, and we close at 6:00, and so I just started, making a little bit of time to get out of there a little earlier to make it happen. And we're on the opposite end of town from most of that stuff, but there is the grace period there, getting there, where food is provided, and so. Even though you're getting there at 6:00, everybody kind of gets a chance to get to know each other. You build relationships for you, for example, and then the firefighters that have been helping us, the EMTs, and whoever is teaching the class. If we're at the jail or we're at the sheriff, it gives everybody an opportunity to get to know each other before you kind of engage in that.
And even the citizens themselves, we got to know
totally.
different ones who participated, so we got to know them more. So I feel like we're getting to leave with not only all this knowledge, but new acquaintances and new friends that we see out and about. Hey, how's it going? Catch up and things. So that's been really cool too.
But even if you're getting off of work at 6:00, there's enough time to get there without missing out, and still getting enough time to grab something to eat. Once you get there, you guys have been super accommodating, and there were a couple times. I had food poisoning and missed the first meeting, which was pretty terrible, and I was bummed out about that. You guys had everybody there, and hey, this is who you're going to be. So I got to meet everybody little by little instead of having that introduction. And of course, the last two right before our wedding, I was unable to do for preparations. But
I have to say, the ones that I did miss, I was really upset that I had to miss. And a couple of the nights were ones that I really, really was looking forward to, and I had to miss. And so I'd get to hear from Evan or others in the class, hey, how was it? And they got to tell me everything, and maybe if they had pictures to share. So that was really cool. I hate that I missed them, and at first I'm like, oh, if I miss a few, no big deal. And then it got to a point, absolutely not. Like I did not want to miss a single one because of just having so much fun and learning so much. And even if I might have known a lot about the topic, I still, each night, regardless, I still learned at least one or two things new. So that made it really fun too.
I like having this conversation just because.
Yeah, right?
I was like, I sure hope they liked it.
Yeah,
I had a great time. Well, and Susan, as you know, Susan's taken it more than once. Yeah. She's in like her fourth or fifth time, and she's in our neighborhood watch group. And so when it came up, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I've done that a couple times, and it's great fun, and this and that." It was like, well, that sounds pretty cool. And then she's like, yeah, we get to shoot their guns and all kinds of stuff.
Ride in their
I was like,
cars, drive
sold.
the cars.
Like, oh, cool. We get to do evac training. We get to see what they're carrying and go through their, y'all basically opened up your SWAT locker to us. That was pretty cool. And when else are you going to get the opportunity to do that? It's just not going to happen. And so immediately I was interested, and then when it came time for the signups, like she said, I was like, this is the deadline, like I'm doing it, I'm going to sign you up. If you end up not coming, it is what it is,
but I'm still going.
And
that's what he said.
we signed her mom up too, and she started coming too, and she had a few issues that were preventing her from making a few of them, but she'd still come in when she could,
and I can tell
she always had a great time when she was there.
And I can tell you that she hated that she missed, and I can tell you when the signups come in, she will probably be the first one, because she is like, I hated to miss it, so she is is really looking forward to it next year. And Susan too, you know, the fact that she's done it so many times and she still is so excited, and you know, she still learns every time too.
Exactly.
So, and you know, we've done it the one time, we learned so much. And then, I mean, Susan, she's, like I said, she's done it multiple times, and to just have that level of excitement, you guys are definitely doing something right to have that, and to have people who are doing it multiple times that still look forward to doing it. So very cool.
Absolutely. I was, you know, super interested in the very beginning. I got involved in Neighborhood Watch because I had a few things go missing from my home, which got me kind of involved and introduced me to some of the detectives in the area, and allowed me to work with them, and you know, with their help and with the community's help, we were able to recover some of that stuff. And I now run a Facebook page for stolen motorcycles, you know, to keep an eye out on that. We've had really good luck with recovery on that. But like I said, it introduced me to several police officers and detectives, which kind of got me interested in it because, you know, the recovery process and knowing that there are limitations that you guys face, that you have to have the public's help. And, you know, it's frustrating, I know, to run into so many dead ends when, you know, policy is obviously there for everybody's protection. But you're at a lead where you're like, I've got a really strong feeling about this lead, and your hands are tied because, you know, you can only go so far with certain things. And having a willing and able to help public, you know, makes all the difference in whether or not that case is going to be closed or if it's just going to be left open and your stuff just stays missing. And to me, having that personal connection to it kind of gave me that little bit of a passion. And then the success rate that we started having, you know, in cooperation with, you know, Roanoke City and Roanoke County Police Department and like Detective Musser and things like that, I became a resource. You know, they would, hey, be on the lookout for certain things. And before you know it, it's like, you know, running a motorcycle shop, you'd be amazed how stupid people are bringing a stolen motorcycle by your shop that belongs to one of your customers, you know, and it's like, you know, without that level of assistance from citizens, you're just not going to make those connections, and people don't end up seeing their stuff. And when you allow crime like that to become prevalent, you start having a problem. But if you can, you know, create a situation where those criminals are not in a friendly environment and they're not having a high success rate, and the dog gets turned loose on them while you're standing in the front yard recovering your motorcycle from them, you know, those stories get around, you know, and you know, we don't want, you know, we're in Mount Pleasant. We're in the country. We've got a pretty quiet neighborhood, and we don't want to see a lot of the issues that come from other parts of the county or the city, like where my shop is, you know, bleeding over into that. And as long as it's a friendly environment and people aren't willing to come together and band together and be cooperative and help out where they can, communities turn into places that you can't leave your doors unlocked. And where I grew up, you talk to the old timers out there, they didn't grow up with locked doors. I didn't grow up with locked doors out there. But stuff starts walking off your property and it becomes more prevalent because nobody's doing anything about it. Suddenly, you've got a bad neighborhood. And this was a way for us to kind of get involved and figure out how we can help, you know, finding out about how we can get more police presence in our neighborhood, finding out about your data-driven, what's the word? Your data-driven policies and computer programs that automatically have checkpoints that, you know, the police officer have got to make. Hey, we want you to go sit over here. The computer is telling them, hey, because of the algorithm, because of this algorithm that we've created that we're putting in, you know, calls to service that are happening in these areas and these sorts of crimes that are allowing certain neighborhoods to become bad. Suddenly you've got, you know, police checking on them more often because, hey, crime has started to go up. And suddenly, because there's a higher police presence, things aren't happening so prevalently. You're not getting the you know, smash and grabs walking by on the street because, hey, there might be a police officer coming by. And being able to relay that message to other people that it's okay to call for the authorities for help. The fact that it's 911 if it's an emergency, or the fact that it is the non-emergency number, getting the report made is the most important part, because sometimes those reports can tie together other crimes and lead you to being able to close an investigation on something and get somebody caught for one or two things and other things that they may have been tied with in the similar area that they would have otherwise gotten away with because no one made a report of it. Mm-hmm. And the data-driven department, to me, it makes perfect sense, but it's not something you would necessarily think about. And a lot of folks, like I said, in the neighborhood watch group, they're like, oh, well, we saw such and such happening, and, there was this guy over in the woods doing, whatever, and kind of looked suspicious, and we approached him about it, and he cussed us out, and it's like, did you call the police? Mm-hmm. Well, no. Why didn't you call the police? Like, obviously there's suspicious behaviors going on. We're not saying this person's a criminal, but giving you guys a heads up to know that there's something going on in that area. Maybe somebody else just called the police a block up the road about a break-in. Suddenly your call is relevant, whether you thought it was an emergency or not. And every call contributes to your possibility of having more patrol in your area to further prevent crime. And the idea that this is the way that it operates, and most people have absolutely no clue. They don't even know how to help themselves. And to us, being involved in the neighborhood watch group and having the opportunity to do something like this was, like, to me, it was a no-brainer. I was like, cool, like we can totally figure out what we can take away from this and bring it back home. And we've got a couple neighborhoods that we've got some houses in that have caused a lot of problems. That we've gotten, a lot of assistance with other people in the public, and we've actually been able to make a difference, noticeable difference.
And to be able to take the tools and things that we've learned from the academy and reassure, those in our community, hey, here's our process, like knowing that the Roanoke County is a data-driven, company. And so being able to take that and saying, hey, yes, calling 911 can be very scary, but it's there for a reason. Regardless if you call the non-emergency or that scary 911, that three digit, it's nice to know and understand that and relay that to those who may be a little bit more hesitant. So that has been a big factor in education and kind of easing concerns, and being able to take what we've learned in the academy, taking it back to our neighborhood watch and saying, well, conversations people have had and concerns, well, then we get to learn about it a few weeks later in the academy. So by the time we have a next meeting, we can say, hey, well, actually, we learned this. And just so you know, what your preconceived notations aren't quite right, and here's why. And to kind of ease that and make them more comfortable with having those conversations and being situationally aware and, oh, hey, maybe I should report that, or maybe it could be connected, not to be scared, not to be on high alert, Too many
people think of William Shatner when they think of 911, and they're like, is this call worthy enough to be on Rescue 911 because it's a man walking in the woods? And that's not what it's about. It really, it's not that serious. And like you've said 100 times, like, you don't mind showing up to something that ends up being nothing, because it could always be something. And it's better than not checking,
Yeah. Can't really do much if
you don't know.
You don't know about it.
Yeah, you don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So what would y'all say is, like, personally, like, y'all's takeaways, like, from this? Like,
gotta come out with the hard questions now.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I've always had an appreciation for first responders, but it has grown my appreciation for first responders and just the magnitude that Roanoke County has of resources. And you've talked about that before, but having our designated SWAT, having VICE, getting to talk with DWR, getting to learn about, breaking it down with the PPE for the firefighters, as well as, police and things like that. It's
good to know where your resources go.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
nice.
That's
and,
huge.
Yeah.
You know, nobody likes taxes, but when you get to go and see what they're actually going towards, and you realize like this stuff is all literally going to make your community safer and make people like you safer because you get better equipment. You know, knowing the difference between the firearms y'all used to have and now what you're carrying now has suddenly made the likelihood of there being an accident much lower. It makes your accuracy higher. It makes your ability to, you know, acquire a target if necessary much quicker. It makes you much safer as an individual. And, you know, your level of training and reliability. And like I said, you know, the idea of being able to see directly where it's going and the level of training and the equipment definitely makes you feel better about Uncle Sam's hand in your pocket, you know, because like I said, you don't have a choice about that. But knowing that it is going to something that's good, that is helping not only yourself, but the people around you is great too. Honestly, I'm about to be 39, and I didn't really get involved with the whole neighborhood watch thing until I was about 35. And to be honest, now looking back on it, I wish that I would have gotten into my community and being involved in my community and public service a lot younger. It's super rewarding, you know, and you know, like I said, it's gotten us into other programs too to help, you know, children at the elementary school and stuff like that, and to me, completely worthy of the time that we've spent, even being a weekly program. Sometimes until, you know, 9 o'clock, you know, and it seems kind of late sometimes, but sometimes you look at the clock and you're like, that flew by so quick. Like, how did it get here already? So, I my big takeaway from it, honestly, was just seeing how everything works. Was amazing because there's just so much going on behind the scenes that you don't think about as a citizen, into policing the community, keeping the community safe, making sure that people arrive to the hospital, you know, safely, and, you know, seeing what the EMTs go through, and also some of the training that you guys have imparted on us that have allowed us to be better citizens if there is an emergency. You know, we've gotten CPR training. You know, they teach us how to use, you know, fire extinguishers. Well, obviously you do that for a living too. But like the fire hose training, the fire extinguishers, how to use tourniquets. You guys did that with us in 2 separate units. You know, even in like the mass shooter,
the active shooter
drills
situations
and stuff like that. Like there's just a lot of things that you take away from it, skill wise too, that you're not going to get anywhere else. And the fact that you guys do it for free is, you know, it's great. Like that truly, like, that's one of those programs that, like, I had no idea even existed until the neighborhood watch and you brought it up and Susan talked so highly of it. So, you know, the more people you can get interested in that and the more people you can get out for it, the better off the entire community is going to be.
And also too, to kind of go off with the behind the badge, it's nice being part of this to have so many different departments and so many different people within the county who are willing, and even with the Western Regional Jail, for them to take time of their own personal time to come in and educate us, and to have those faces and putting the names, you know, behind the badge and getting to know that. So in the event, you know, on the worst day of our lives, when our lives are falling apart, you know, to learn some of those faces and those names, and if they might be the ones coming, just to have that familiar face to kind of, hey, I know you, I know what you're capable of, to take off that edge of that really scary, that really horrible moment has been huge too. Hopefully, you know, we won't have to be in that situation, but if we do, you know, a lot of the times it's nice to have somewhat of a familiar face, or if not that exact person, to know what that department, whether the fire department, the EMS, the paramedics, the officers, just to know what they're capable of and to help out and kind of ease your mind in that really, really scary situation. And
it's certainly helpful to know that you guys have high standards. And the people that are doing these jobs are, you know, capable individuals that you can trust. That has been a great reassurance. Yeah, absolutely. And they've all been very, very knowledgeable, all very willing to impart their education, their experience, their knowledge, and to just really be, you know, an open book throughout this entire process. So that's been really nice to see as well, to know that they're very passionate about what they do. And if they're passionate about what they do, that means they
might just enjoy what they do on a daily basis. So that's really nice.
Seeing people like Short in his job doing what he absolutely loves, that he's passionate about, is great. You know, seeing not just him, but there's lots of people in y'all's department that are passionate about their jobs and are not just doing it because it's a job or it's a career. It's what they are good at. It's what they want to do. And like I said, that is hugely reassuring as a citizen.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I don't have to say goodbye to y'all, since
I know you're still
You're
stuck
with us,
us.
buddy.
Exactly. And so that's good. And anyone else who would want to do it, if you really start to like us and you go through the Citizens Academy, you can also start a neighbor watch group. But yeah, thank you for taking the time, and hopefully some people will get a little bit interested and consider popping on out, and maybe if we get some people from Mount Pleasant, they'll just pop out the neighbor watch group.
Yeah. We always, anyone who asks, hey, what are you doing? Oh, what is that? How do you join? So we're very, very adamant. Hey, the signups will be this fall. Please feel free, and last year there were a few people who I'd mentioned it to that were city residents and didn't realize and wasn't sure if it was just a county resident thing. So I know several of my friends who, I'll go and tell them what we've done. They're like, that sounds so cool. And I said, well, next academy, as soon as I know that it's out there, I'll definitely be sending them a link, because I know they've been following through and seeing the RVTV, the different snippets of everything. And they're like, that's so cool. You got to drive one of the county cop cars? Absolutely we did. Yeah. You got to go to the firing range? Absolutely we did. So they're very, very jealous at the moment. But we will definitely be sending that to several people that we know who are looking forward to it. And like I said, my mom, I know she's really looking forward to signing up to doing it next year, to be able to do the full course. And, yeah, we are very adamant. We try and spread the word. We're like, go have a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of great people. You get to learn a ton. And yes, it's, 3 hours a week. If you can't dedicate that, I know people's lives are pretty hectic, but we didn't think we could at first. And then we were like, how, we had our last night of the academy, really last night of education, and now we've kind of looked at each other and like, what are we going to do on Tuesday nights? Sit and stare at one another and watch TV? Like, what are we supposed to do?
My guys at the shop are going to be disappointed, because Wednesday morning has become story time.
Yeah.
Like, what happened last night? Tell us all
What'd
about
you
it.
do?
Yeah, that sort of thing. So Wednesday mornings are going to be kind of boring from here on out.
Yeah, we're going to miss it. We really are. So, and who
that.
knows, maybe next year we might just do it again. We have a lot more fun.
It's like, part of me, because we have a 25-person cap, so it's new people. So part of me is like, I hope only 23 people sign up. But then also it's like, it'd be great to have. So either way, glad that I have y'all in the neighborhood watch group. And
absolutely.
As a reminder, to y'all's friends and anybody else, no matter whether you're a resident, if someone's willing to come, once a week into Roanoke County, they probably do that in their personal life anyways.
Exactly.
And so that's why we don't have a residency requirement, is because yes, obviously there's a higher likelihood that we'll deal with our residents, but if you work or eat or play or whatever you do or live, especially in Roanoke County, then we'd love you to know our resources, and especially anyone who's renting is consider renting in Roanoke County.
Yeah,
you
consider
might
even
live somewhere else for now.
Move on into Roanoke County. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, because I love it. That's why I work here.
Yeah.
And so continue to invite your friends, and hope to see some of y'all at our next Citizens Academy. Sign up start in November.